The appeal of indie games isn't about how big they are or how much money was spent making them. It's about how often a small team can come up with an idea that feels completely different from anything you've played before. So if you're looking for something great to play next, here are 10 indie games you really shouldn't miss. Hollow Knight Silksong is the follow-up to Hollow Knight, one of the most beloved Metroidvanias of the past decade. This time you play as Hornet instead of the Silent Knight, with a faster, more agile moveset built around aerial attacks, acrobatics, and her needle and thread. Team Cherry's detailed hand-drawn art style is still here, but the setting is completely new. Rather than returning to Hollow Nest, Hornet travels through Farloom, a kingdom built around a journey upward instead of the descent into the depths that define the first game.
What if the rules of a puzzle game weren't fixed, but were actually objects you could push around on the screen? That's the idea behind Baba is You. Words like you, wall, and win are physical blocks that you can rearrange to change how the game works. Move a single word and suddenly a wall can become something you can walk through, or a completely different object can become the character you control. The harder puzzles aren't about finding the intended solution. They're about figuring out how to change the rules themselves and break the level in a way the designer never expected. Hades is an action roguelite where dying isn't the end of a run, it's part of the story. You play as Zagreus, prince of the underworld, fighting your way through the realms of the dead in an attempt to escape his father, Hades. The real fun comes from the boons you receive from the gods of Olympus. Since different gods can offer different combinations of abilities from one run to the next, your build can end up playing very differently every time you attempt an escape. Subnautica drops you into an alien ocean after your spacecraft crashes, where survival depends on managing your oxygen, gathering resources, and avoiding the dangerous creatures lurking beneath the surface. You can build your own underwater base and craft better equipment to venture deeper, but the deeper you go, the more dangerous and unfamiliar the environment becomes. There's no complete map to guide you either, so you're left to navigate the depths yourself, with the distant calls of massive creatures constantly reminding you that you're not alone down there. In Untitled Goose Game, you play as a goose with one simple goal: become the biggest nuisance in a quiet English village. Each area gives you a list of things to mess with, stealing things from the gardener to set up a picnic, teasing a boy on the street, and even kicking a soccer ball into a goal. The humor comes from how ridiculous it is to play as a goose and cause trouble in all kinds of ways. What if every time you failed, your character didn't start over, but simply grew older on the spot? That's the central mechanic of Sifu, a third-person melee action game heavily inspired by Hong Kong martial arts films. Every time you're defeated, you age by several years. As you get older, your maximum health decreases while your attacks become more powerful, meaning repeated failures gradually push you toward the limit of your character's lifespan. If you die at too old an age, your journey finally comes to an end. Viewfinder is a first-person puzzle game built around a simple but unusual idea. Take a photograph, place it in front of you, and watch it become part of the real world. These flat images can be turned into three-dimensional objects and paths, letting you reshape the environment to solve puzzles. From photographs and drawings to photocopies, all kinds of images can be brought into the world to create new objects and ways forward. If Viewfinder turns images into puzzle-solving tools, Undertale completely reimagines how combat can work in a traditional RPG. During battles, your soul becomes a tiny heart trapped inside a box, and you have to dodge patterns of attacks that change depending on the monster you're facing. Instead of simply attacking, you can also flirt, talk, or negotiate with enemies, giving you the option to resolve encounters without killing them. More importantly, the game remembers how you treat the monsters you meet, with your choices affecting the story and how characters react to you later on. Cult of the Lamb combines two genres that seem completely unrelated: village management and action roguelite. On one side, you take care of a growing community of followers by farming, building structures, and preaching to strengthen their faith and expand your cult. On the other, you venture into randomly generated dungeons filled with enemies to gather resources, with each failed run costing you much of what you collected along the way. All of this is wrapped in a cute, almost cartoon-like art style, creating a striking contrast with the fact that you're essentially running a dark cult. What if a game had no tutorial, and the only manual you could find was written in a language you couldn't read? That's Tunic, an action-adventure game where you play as a small fox, exploring a world inspired by classic Zelda games. Scattered pages from an in-game manual gradually reveal how the world works, and you'll need to study the illustrations, experiment for yourself, and piece the information together as you go. In Tunic, figuring out how the game works is just as important as exploring the world itself.
That's 10 indie games I wanted to recommend in this video. If you know another indie game that deserves to be on the list, leave its name in the comments so everyone can check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.